start the recording. And I know Keeble was having some camera troubles, but Keeble, do you want to kick us off?
I'm here. Could you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm so happy to be here. I'm Keeble Giscombe, the Homeownership Director. I've been with this agency for about 5 months right now, and I'm really happy that I'm able to be part of this meeting. This meeting is normally a quarterly meeting with our partners, just to create to work on our network and trying to get us all in the same room so we could share updates and also hear from you guys, because what we hear is impact our work extremely, and we do take the impact into the work that we do. Today, I know from our team, we have Talia is in attendance, and I believe there's two of our assistant directors, Scott Shaw and Rick Abrego, is a part of this meeting as well. And I'm really happy to be here today. And I would just like to give a quick update that we're currently the assistant director for the home development program. We do have a vacancy in that position, and we're currently going through the recruitment process. And I believe that we're in the second stage of that process right now. And I'm anticipating us being able to bring someone on board within the next several weeks. And I'm really happy to be here, and I'm happy to pass it back over to Talia. So I wish my camera's on, but my camera is shy today. But it's a pleasure being here, and I'm looking forward to meeting everyone that I can as I go forward.
Great. Thank you, Keeble. And we have a relatively short agenda today. Our plan is to just talk a little bit about the last conversation we had all together and our next steps, and then share a little bit more about follow-up from the legislative session, and then upcoming opportunities, and then we'll open it up to any updates that you all have and want to share with each other. So I'm just going to share my screen quickly. So, whoops. Okay. So as you know, or many of you know and have been part of, oh, do you see my screen sharing? It says it's paused, but.
We can see it, Talia.
Okay, great. And it's the how might we slide, or does it something else?
It says upcoming engagements. It's
okay.
Oh, now we don't see it anymore.
Okay. Okay. Now I think it should be.
There you go. You're perfect.
Cool. So we've been engaging in conversations with you all to try to answer this design question collaboratively that says, how might we collectively build a safety net that supports people to buy, maintain, and build equity in their home? And so we've had a couple conversations with this group so far, and are at about a year ago, we had a group of participants identify pillars of a homeownership safety net. And so last meeting we came together, we looked at what types of programs, and sorry for the fuzzy text, but this is from our Jamboard that we did last time. We looked at the different pillars of the safety net and started kind of categorizing a lot of the programs that we provide under these pillars, acknowledging that a lot of them are overlapping and fall under many different places, and our services are interconnected. And so we also had you take each pillar and answer different questions around that. So what are the gaps and barriers when it comes to that pillar? What's working well? What strategies are needed to fulfill this pillar's goal? And so this is an example of the maintaining homes pillar. And we've heard a lot of really good feedback from you all, specifically on this pillar about how home repair, home retention is needed. And so this is just one example of the many great ideas that came up during the meeting. And we also asked, what rises to the top as an immediate strategy? Who's missing from these conversations? But I don't think we ever got to that point last time. We didn't have enough time. So, and that's kind of been the theme of some of these conversations, that we just haven't had enough time to get deeper into the details that we're interested in hearing from you all. And so after that session, we decided that maybe the best way to hear more feedback from everybody was to create a survey on program insights and priorities. And so many of you have already filled out that survey. Thank you so much. We really appreciate that. And it is the survey is still open until September 15th. So if you haven't filled it out yet, we'd love to hear your program insights and what your priorities are for the upcoming year. And we will be taking all that information and synthesizing it for you during our next partner meeting, which is in December. But the goals of this survey are really, like I said, to dig in deeper, to get some program information that our staff came up or was wondering about after conversations with you during the safety net meeting, to help us shape future legislative concepts. So we just finished one legislative session, and we'll, as Alexandra on the call, who's part of our government affairs team, knows well, we'll already be starting to plan for the next long session, so in 2025. And the short session as well, but the 2025 session is when we'll be able to propose new legislative concepts, and then identify ways to promote collaboration with OHCS and among partners. So how can we leverage our knowledge and resources, and identify ways in which OHCS can support all of its partners and to be culturally responsive. So you'll see a series of questions around that, and we're really interested in ensuring that all our partners have the resources and capacity to serve clients in a culturally responsive way. And so we're hoping to just collect more information about how we can support you in that. So link is here for the survey. It's open for 8 more days. And I'll also put the link in the chat in a second. And so that was our next step from that safety net discussion. And I think someone maybe already put the link in the chat. Great. And so just shifting to future thinking, or recovering from the legislative session and thinking about our programs moving forward. This legislative session was a big one for OHCS, and I'm sure you all have already seen the funding or debriefed with us at one point, but we just wanted to review a little bit of the funding that we got and tell you a few details since the session has unfolded. So we received funding in many different areas. Most of it was to enhance or add to existing programs. So the Homeownership Division received about $20 million in new funding. And I'll talk a little bit about the Homeownership Development Funds, and then I'll pass it over to Alicia and then Rick to talk more about the programs and funding in their areas. So we received a record-breaking amount of Article 11Q bonds, over 600 million, and those will fund a multitude of things within OHCS, but pertinent to homeownership is the LIFT program and LIFT homeownership. So we will have about $40 million in LIFT funding to offer to homeownership developers in the coming year. And we're expecting to release that money through a NOFA that will be published in January 2024. And that will be published alongside with, it will be a joint NOFA with the $5 million in general funds, which will pair with LIFT homeownership. And so it'll be a $45 million NOFA. And we are shifting to making that a rolling NOFA rather than a competitive NOFA with a 60-day application deadline. And so we will be hosting engagement sessions, and I'll put links to those engagement sessions in the chat in a little bit to talk more in depth with our homeownership development partners about what that will look like and about how scoring will work and get your feedback. So we really want to hear from you about the shift, but we are excited to be able to release the next round of homeownership development funding. And then kind of in the homeownership development category, but not quite, is we got funding to pass through to Network of Oregon Affordable Housing, NOAA, trying not to just say acronyms, $7.5 million to pass through to them to create a new low-income mortgage loan fund. And that will be a loan product that decreases the amount of time to a mortgage product will have from 30 years to 20 years or less, and really bring down the interest on a shared equity mortgage product so that folks that are shared equity home buyers can build equity in the home quicker. So that will be all run by NOAA. So stay tuned for information from them as they get the program underway. And then we also got an additional $7.5 million for down payment assistance that's paired with the Flex Lending program, which is up and running and actively enrolling new lenders. Scott, do you want to say anything about that?
Scott wants to find his mute button and figure out how to turn it off. No, we're kind of excited. We have had I'm pulling up the most recent. In fact, I just put the final application. So we got 17 lenders that are approved, and there's 36 people that have applied in total, and we're excited. It is rolling well. We have our second securitization that settles next week. So we want to thank everybody for their participation in the program, and it's nice to be able to bring a product that has down payment assistance associated with it to Oregon home buyers and helping people realize that dream of home ownership. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Scott. And now I'll pass it over to Alicia to talk a little bit about the foreclosure avoidance counseling program.
Hi, everyone. Just an update for partners. The foreclosure avoidance counseling program agreements have been submitted to our procurement department. They're working on going through the updated agreement. For those partners that were in attendance at the meeting, there was a request to change the fee structure, and we did get that approved to have just one fee for counseling and all the other services that are encompassed within the foreclosure counseling program, and converting to instead of monthly invoices to quarterly invoices, with the first one ending October. So we will look forward to those coming out in the next 30 to 60 days, depending on how long it takes to vet through DOJ. But the agreement is not changed much, other than we've pulled out some of the OFA components so that we're not tied directly to OFA, more about the foreclosure avoidance counseling, which is the key to what this funding is for. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to reach out to me, or if you want to raise your hand, you can ask a question. But we're working on it. We should have it out shortly. Thank you.
Thanks. And just to answer Sonia's question in the chat, and maybe you could add to this, Alicia, but the $7.5 million will go out through the Flex Lending program. We still have our Homeownership Assistance Programs, DPA program, which is separate, which is rolled out through our homeownership partners, and they administer the down payment assistance. And I know we just awarded contracts for that last spring, but anything else you want to add to that, Alicia?
No, yeah, this funding here is tied directly to the Flex Lending program. So it's not the HOPE funding or any additional funding like we had last program for the culturally responsive organizations. So yeah, so it's totally separate.
And Rick, do you want to share a little bit more about the manufactured housing funding and also the policy that was extended?
Sure. Well, our manufactured replacement program, a decommissioning replacement program, received $2.5 million for this biennium to help replace manufactured homes that are pre-1995 homes. I'm happy and sad to say that we, as of right now, we are fully allocated, not fully dispersed, but fully allocated. So we were able to help 18 manufactured homeowners replace their I would say that it's pre-1995, but these were pre-1980 homes that were replaced that were in disrepair. And so we're excited about that. But again, sad about it because we're, as quick as we started, we were fully allocated. We received over 80 applications, and unfortunately, we were only able to help the 18 that we have notified. And at this point, we're hoping that things change and, you know, see if we can't get more funding as time progresses. But for right now, we are fully allocated. So we have ceased opening it up for additional applications at this point.
Thanks, Rick. Any questions about the legislative session or homeownership funding?
I guess I can just jump in rather than do the whole hand. Oh, I see Sarah Padilla with the with her hand raised. So, and maybe we were going to ask the same question, Sarah, but I was just curious, throughout the session, we heard 154 million for Lyft home ownership. So I'm curious how we landed on the 40 million in this current round.
Really, I'm happy to jump in here if it's helpful. So the 154 million was based on 20% of $1 billion, which of course is not the final allocation. So that's, or I guess it was 900 million. That's kind of where you're seeing that change, and just kind of the 600 million accounts for both Lyft, PS8 and PSH. So we've kind of had to do some, you know, homeownership is 20% of Lyft historically, and so that 600 million is not quite the complete picture of how we calculate funding. And I don't know the Lyft versus PSH split off the top of my head, but that's how we get to that 40 million figure.
And the 40 million is just for 2024. If we use all those funds, then we will have more funds for 2025.
So I had a slightly different question, but also related to the Lyft additional funding that was announced a couple of weeks ago for the 2022 and 2023 Lyft awardees. I think that application has been, it was due, I think it's been closed. So do you have any updates on that, or are those applications just like under review?
So everybody that applied should be hearing from us very soon, within the week. Yeah.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Go for it, Shannon.
Thanks, Talia. I'm not sure whether this is the exact place, and I know I'm probably starting to sound like a little bit of a broken record, and perhaps even Sarah could speak more to this, but I'm aware that the Habitat Portland Region affiliate, while closing 2 different Lyft awards, received conflicting opinions from DOJ. And so, you know, we've been instructed at other times that some of our challenges are coming from bond counsel, but since we just got conflicting opinions from DOJ, that does seem like a source of some consistent consternation, let's say, and wondering if there are thoughts or strategies on trying to address that strangeness.
I'll let others chime in after me, but I know we're working with our DOJ to have templates for all our Lyft documents that are more standardized. So there's more consistency in terms of reviews. And it doesn't quite vary as much depending on who is doing the reviewing. So our agency is very aware that there have been some just conflicting advice coming out, and are working on trying to make sure that happens less or not at all. For this specific issue, maybe let's take that offline off this meeting and chat about it more. I know that those agreements have been, yeah, let's talk about it after.
Yeah, I'm happy to. I think that in a way, the specific instance was helpful, right? Because it was two different opinions at the same time going to a highly resourced affiliate. And just to point out, there's an equity issue here, and that not every, especially small rural affiliate, is going to have the same legal budget. So thank you for, I think templates are the perfect way to go. Thanks, Talia.
Okay, I don't see any other hands or questions, but oh wait, I don't have the chat open, but okay. Yes, Sarah, rental does have template legal documents, and we're next in line to get our template legal documents as well. Okay, great. So if there's no other questions, feel free to add them to the chat if you think of more, but we're just going to shift to some other, some updates, some not so new, but just reminders. So our partner survey closes on September 15th. If you haven't filled it out, please do. We'd love to hear from you. If you are a lender on the call and you haven't yet applied for the Flex Lender RFA, the link is up here, and we'll post this PowerPoint on our site later so you can access all these links. I did want to call to all the developers out there, call to your attention that there is, I think it's over $1.5 million available through the land acquisition program. Last time, there's about 1.2 available for home ownership specifically. And then I think last call we spoke about how some of the money had gone unused, so it's pooled for home ownership or rental, so whoever gets to it first. And it's just such a great tool to use to get ready to apply for LIFT or for whatever development project. So encourage you to check that out. And then we're having 2 homeownership development NOFA engagement meetings coming up. The first one will be on September 19th, and our hope is to really hone in on the LIFT supplemental eligibility, since we know it's a small amount of money compared to last year, and there's a lot of demand for it. And so we want to make sure that we're being really transparent about who qualifies for that and how we can equitably distribute that money. And we'll also talk about what does it mean to shift from a competitive short duration response time for a NOFA and to a rolling NOFA, and how will that change the application process, and get your feedback on that as well. And then the October 10th meeting will dig into a little bit more on just the different criteria that applications will be scored on. And we'll also have a visitor from the Department of Energy to talk a bit about their solar rebate programs. And we're trying to connect the dots a little bit more with other agencies that have funding available for homeownership development components of projects, so that we can help supplement your budgets. And then our quarterly partner call. But in December, the last call of the year will be December 7th. And we'll talk more about what we learned in the survey and what we're going to do with that information, and probably have more questions for you. And I'm sure a lot of other things will come up before then as well. So I'll stop sharing and just wanted to open it up to any updates that you all want to share. Go for it, Jackie.
Hi. Hi, everyone. Nice to see you. Not an update, just questions to the OHS team. Two pieces. One, are we going to get clarification on the use of flex lending and lift for I-10? I know we've talked to Scott a lot about that. There seems to be some significant confusion that's causing harm in our communities, and we would like some written or expected in this meeting, some verbal clarification. So that separately. Well, I'll go up. Well, does you guys want to respond to that first?
Yeah, we've been hearing some confusion. Lyft has no, the only qualifying criteria is income. So for Lyft, your home buyers need to be 80% AMI or below. And so it's pretty agnostic in terms of residency status. The mortgage products, on the other hand, are what can be restrictive. So Oregon bond loan, if your Lyft home buyer is accessing an Oregon bond loan, then they need to have legal residency. And then depending on if you're using another loan product, it would just be their terms. But we are agnostic of what product the home buyer is using to buy a Lyft home. Does that help?
Yes, kind of, although Lyft does require Oregon bond, generally.
Yeah, or
the first
portfolio
position
loan, or yeah, and we're working with Fannie Mae to hopefully have a solution at some point.
Do you have a timeline on that? Not to put you on the spot, but
we don't yet have a timeline, but
okay.
Yeah.
And then we have received, similar to what Shannon mentioned, conflicting feedback on how Lyft expenditures should be handled between precedent and essentially how, let's say, has historically been handling, and then discussions on how they may want to be handling that. Are you guys planning on getting feedback or having community discussion around that before you tell us this definitively?
Can I clarify, do you mean like reimbursements or like
Yes.
draws for, or
Draws, reimbursements, liens, waivers required, elements like that?
Okay, yeah, we are planning on writing up something more specific that is posted on our site so that there's just general clarity around what documentation is needed for draws and how that process works in general. So yes,
Okay.
Stay tuned. That's all in the works, coming relatively soon.
Thank you, Talia.
Go for it, Katie.
Okay, I just wanted to take a quick minute to introduce. I wanted to introduce two of our new staff, but our new executive director had a meeting run over, so he is unable to join us. But just to give folks a heads up, we did our new executive director, Dominique Merriweather, started the end of July, and Diane Lynn, who I know has been very active in this group, her last day was last week. So we hope that, in our next together meeting, we will have Dominique here to say hello, but I also wanted to introduce Rosaria Roberts, who is on the call that many of you probably know. She is our new program director. So this is her first week, and really happy to have both Dominique and Rosaria on our team.
Kevin.
Hey everyone, Kevin Cronin here from Housing Oregon. Just wanted to take a second to invite you all to our conference. It's happening September 26th through 28th. That's a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. We're gathering at the Portland Doubletree at the Lloyd Center. There's going to be over 75 different workshops related to housing. And OHCS will be there, and we want you to come and join us. Thanks so much.
Shannon?
Thank you, Talia. I just wanted to take a moment to say thank you for the HOPE tech capacity building and strategic planning resources. Our organization has just really put those into use. We have our board and staff retreat a week from today, actually, and staff have been doing inquiry in areas for growth over the summer, and the DEI support has just been really greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Your positive outcomes of grant funding. Anyone else want to share something that's going on at their organization or have any questions for us?
I'll share a minute. I think two things I want to share. One is we have done in the past a couple of homeownership, affordable homeownership fairs, and we started them this year with the affordable housing developers from the region. Rated Homes among those, but all the affordable housing developers, and it has been super well received by the community, and it's just been really exciting to be able to work together this way, thanks to the language and average grant. We were able to do one in Spanish that we did it with the Latino Community Association, and we did that one all in Spanish. So there was only translation for some of the presenters that were not bilingual. And it was a really good event, and as kind of doing something a little bit different, so kind of fun. The other thing was that we've started to doing some lunch and learns together, and we did one specific about IT products recently, hearing kind of what's because for longest time the response in my market was like there was zero product, right? Now there's starting to be some products, and still, if we were able to really lift the real or perceived barriers between through use of Lyft and IT products, it will help a lot in this community. I'm sure other communities throughout Central Oregon as well. But it was good to see that at least there's starting to be something which is better than what we had just a couple of years ago. It's not where we need to be, and I think the state has a real role on removing some of the barriers, because at face value, some stuff works, but it doesn't work together. And until it works together, there's not going to be making real difference in the ability for people to purchase. And we have quite a few households that are mixed households. And so if you look at really who you're affecting and who you're removing for the opportunity, then that's something to really look broader than just who is 18, right? And the third and last thing I will say, because this is in my mind, next week has a big conference on housing, a virtual conference nationwide, and I'll be talking a little bit about the digital divide and the role that's playing in how and who has the opportunity to access financial education and homeownership education, and what's our role as practitioners in this space to be sensitive to that. So I invite you all to participate in the conference if you want. There's a lot of good speakers and sessions, and this is free and nationwide. But if you don't have a chance, at least to be thinking in your own spaces about how the digital divide is playing and who are you accidentally living out now that it has taken just a total different and bigger form that it did before COVID.
for sharing, Sonia. Do you want to put the link to that in the chat? Thanks.
Talia, is it okay if I speak a little bit on I-10? And Jackie, I know you threw me a softball. I could have like actually responded. I apologize. I want to first start by saying that I-10 loans are allowed by Fannie and Freddie and FHA. They've always been allowed. But here's the big catch. You have to prove legal residency. That residency has to meet either, if you're doing an FHA loan, FHA's guidelines. If it's a Fannie Mae loan, Fannie Mae's guidelines. If you're a Freddie Mac loan, Freddie Mac's guidelines. That is for flex lending. For our bond program, part of the rules of our bond program is that you have to be a legal resident. So again, if you're doing an FHA loan, you're going to follow FHA's guidelines for proving residency, et cetera. When we were participating in the JARDO task force, one of the things that we had worked towards was actually getting a loan that would allow for I-10 borrowers, or at least what we'll call I-10 borrowers, which is really borrowers that can't prove residency. The only way that we could actually accomplish that, because that's a lot of money, right? It's literally every single dollar that's lent, we would have to have a source for. And there was a credit union that basically would collaborate with us to create that mortgage loan. And we are up for that. So for borrowers that can't prove residency, you are pretty much relegated. Honestly, when it comes to, you're not going to be able to use what we call a GSE mortgage, which is Fannie, Freddie, FHA, VA, USDA. You're going to end up using either a credit union or a bank that is willing to portfolio it, or some sort of private money. So I just wanted to kind of, hopefully that provides some clarity. And as Talia had already said, the way that the LIFT projects are funded, yeah, LIFT doesn't preclude any of it. And any of the loans that Oregon actually provides all of the money for, there's nothing that keeps you from doing a borrower that can't prove residency. It's when you get loans that are backed by, I'm going to call it federal dollars. That's probably a little more broad than I should. But that's kind of the fact of the matter is that Fannie and Freddie are under conservatorship by FHFA. FHA is run by HUD, right? And then our bond loans are actually a section, I think it's section 42 of IRS code. So that was a lot of talking, and I'm sorry. I hope it provides a little bit of clarity as to what's going on. It's not because we don't want to. It's because it's literally, we do not have the resources to be able to do that. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, and you mentioned the JARDO task force, Scott, which I thought was a good call out. Many of you participated on the joint task force to addressing racial disparities in homeownership, and there were many credit unions that participated in that. And there was this recommendation that came out for a special purpose credit program that the state would help subsidize. And that recommendation, or that bill, unfortunately didn't pass, but but through that process, we learned of many lenders out in the community that are piloting or have been offering I-10 loans. So maybe at one of our future meetings, we could bring together some of those lenders to talk about that. I know you all talk to each other and know who's offering loans to each other's clients or home buyers, but just to keep the conversation going, and perhaps that's something that can be revived in the next session, but that doesn't mean the work has to stop before then. Okay, if there's no other updates, I'll pass it back to Keeble to close us out for the day.
Thank you, Talia, and everyone that participated today. Our next meeting will be December, I believe it's December 7th. But until then, if there's any questions or concerns, please do not hesitate to reach out to us. It was an honor being here today, and I look forward to seeing you all back in December. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.